Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today is an active real estate investor with an $8.6 million portfolio that includes commercial, single family, and fix and flip projects. And he has more than 20 years of experience in the financial services and mortgage banking industries. Mark Spidell joins us today. Mark, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So tell us about your real estate goals right now.
Sure. Well, they have shifted a bit in the past couple of years. As the market has changed, I've been trying to really look lifestyle-wise. I want to work with good, hardworking people. I want to find deals that make sense for me. At the same time, they don't really impact me as far as quality of life. And at the same time, I don't want to be overpaying for things. So I've been a little bit more finicky, been a little bit more selective, and really preparing for a time when it is going to be better to re-enter the market.
Yeah, and how do you think about how your business has to change with the times? Because you're doing less deals now. Do you have to make that up somewhere else?
Not necessarily. I am doing some other consulting work right now. I actually do very niche consulting work in the hard money lending industry. So I enjoy that. I learn a lot. I get a network through that. And maybe at some point I will get into the lending business, but not at this point. But it's not necessarily that there's not things to buy. I'm just not as anxious to buy as I once was.
Yeah. And are you, like most other people, are you saving up a war chest right now for if we do hit that downturn?
A bit of that. Also just really establishing my banking relationships so I can leverage those when it is a better time.
Yeah. And like you said, like those banking relationships, they pay off dividends down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I used to be a commercial banker, and they can be difficult to deal with, but I do feel like if you play by the bank's rules, it can really pay off in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. So for you as an investor, how has your business really grown and morphed over the years? Because you've been investing in some different parts of the cycle. So how were things on day one, and how have things morphed to today?
Well, you oftentimes hear people say, "Don't buy yourself a job," and I will say I was guilty of that, and I still do too much. And so I would say I was much more hands-on back in the day, a lot more tenant activity. I have vacation rentals, and so I still get involved with those sometimes, even though I try to hire as much out as I can. It's really that. Really, I like to find good people to partner with. I act as a coach. I like to see other people be successful. And although I haven't been 100% successful in always finding good people to partner with, those that have been good partners, I'm really happy about it, really proud of the outcome.
Yeah. And do you mind talking about a little bit about what makes a good partner? Because it sounds like you've had some good and some bad experiences.
Sure.
What do you do now that you wish you were doing at the start in terms of finding partners?
A little bit more due diligence. I always did some, but I would say really make them show their past performance. Look up whether it's in title searches or online, different ways to really see that they were successful in the things they said they were successful in doing. Do background checks, I think is a good one. Ask for some character references. And really, I would say, just talk with them if you can, because I live out of state from where a lot of my projects are, but go try to have dinner with them, try to get to know them on a little bit more of a personal level, because it's really hard for somebody that's, more of a fake it till you make it person to hide that forever, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And are you looking for personality types that are opposite to yours? Does that factor in at all?
A little bit. I'm not a super extroverted person. At the same time, I'm not a salesy type of person either. I'm not great at always being the one that could hustle and find the market deal as well as some other people. So I tend to try to find people that have some differing skill sets than my own. I'm more the banking analyst type of guy.
Yeah, gotcha. And for you, as your investments have grown, do you have any routines that you follow, maybe daily or weekly, that have really helped keep you focused?
Well, I have young children, and so I have to wake up early. So,
Yeah.
the quote unquote miracle morning, sometimes it's a miracle that we survive the morning, I would say. Uh, I think what has just changed for me, I would say, is that I do like to exercise regularly. That's not a daily thing, but it's a 3 to 4 time a week thing, and my diet has changed a bit. I do buy into meditation. That's something that 5-10 years ago I would have said, that's just a bunch of hocus pocus. But really, I do find value in meditation, as well as just trying to put myself in the perspective of not getting too worked up about the little things. And so every day I try to show gratitude towards what is going well in my life and those around me that I really do appreciate.
Yeah. And so what sort of properties are you focusing on now? Because, when I introduced you, you have a bit of commercial, you have a bit of single family, some fix and flips. What's your outlook looking like for your portfolio over the next couple of years?
Really, it's based on the partners that I'm working with now. I live in a tourist area called Glenwood Springs, Colorado. So it's not a great place to buy and hold properties. Cap rates are very low here. My biggest asset is in this town, and if there is a better time to re-enter this market, I will do that. Those in my area that are making money right now are really speculating. They're building single family properties. Maybe they're even building a small apartment developments. I'm not in that kind of place. I don't like builder's risk. I don't want to do that. So in different parts of the country, I'm partnering with people that can do buy and hold and flip in a way that I feel good about right now. So that's in Texas, that's in Oklahoma, that's in Kansas City. I do some stuff in Philadelphia also. So I like those markets just for their fundamentals for the most part. But I'm not really looking to stretch in expensive areas right now.
Yeah. And have you ever gotten yourself into a market and then said, whoa, hold on, I think I made a mistake?
Sure. Yeah, I don't like Chicago. I think Chicago can be challenging permitting wise. Lot more hustlers than there is hustle sometimes. In the people that I've met there. So I know that may be a bit generalization, but that was my experience.
Yeah. So, well, what do you look for now when you're sourcing a new market based on your previous experience? So, do you have a checklist you go through?
I look at population gain and economic fundamentals. I think those are important. At the same time, I think it's interesting to see what's happening across the country. I think some of these secondary and tertiary markets are actually strengthening because your usual New York, San Francisco, LA are very expensive to the benefit of places like Denver. Yeah, there's actually something now in Kansas City called Denverization. It's funny because Coloradans oftentimes would complain about Californication happening in Colorado. Well, now people in Kansas City are complaining about people in Denver moving and making Kansas City expensive, which is pretty comical if you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see how the population and the demographic shift around the country from state to state over, let's say the past 20 years, and look at the projections. It looks everybody's coming out of the east and the west, going down to those southern states now. Like you mentioned, Texas is as one of the markets you're interested in. So it's some really really neat stuff. So for yourself, like you mentioned, you have some daily rituals with working out. How do you think about your business as it keeps growing? Do you have any rules you live by in terms of how you keep building your portfolio?
Well, it goes, there's certainly portfolio things I think about because I want to have things that are easy and sustainable moving forward. But at the same time, I really want to work with good, honest, hardworking people. So that's my primary focus on things. So yeah, it could be a great market, but if I don't have a good partner to work with in that market, then I can't do a whole lot. about that. So, or unless I just find somebody. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I don't have to do anything right now.
Yeah.
That's not everybody is in that position, and I think we do have some people that are FOMO buying because they just want to get in. They're afraid things are just going to keep getting expensive, and so they may be stretching. That's okay. I feel good that I don't have to do that right now, so I'm just being patient. Still buy, but at the same time, I've been selling. I've done some 1031 exchanges this year, also just taking advantage of some of that appreciation, and then that just gives you a capital to be ready to go again.
Yeah, for sure. And out of all the deals that you've done so far, is there one deal that stands out as a Keystone deal?
Sure. Yeah, it is the office building where I'm sitting at right now. I did buy it in the town where I live. It's an expensive area, like I mentioned. Offices are definitely a touchy thing because there's certainly a change happening there. It's too small, I think, for a bigger investor, but it was just the right size for somebody like me to take it on. I was able to get a good bank debt on it. I did use some private money on it, and I bought it for 1.14 million. Did different value add things to it, improved the lease situation, improved the expenses, added about 50,000 to the NOI, as well as you have some cap rate compression. And the appraisal I got about a year ago showed it at 2 million. So
Nice.
that's a nice change, and it really gives me a little bit of just a base so that I can be flexible in some things, and it gives me credibility with banks too to see that I've had that success.
Yeah. And is your game plan with this one to do a refi over the next couple of years, market permitting?
Yeah, if I can, and there's different ways of doing it that I've just learned about. Insurance companies can be interested in this kind of a loan. There could be a way to even just get a line of credit on top of what I already have and use that equity there. But with some of my single family properties, I've done that too. Basically have a portfolio loan and then have an overarching line of credit on top of that just to take advantage of some of the equity that I have in the portfolio.
Yeah. And how did you source this property? Was it through a broker or did you contact the seller?
Yeah, I was buying some condos. They were very illiquid at the time during the soft part of the cycle, and the broker that I was working with happened to have this listing. I used to be a banker in town, and the bank that I worked for actually had the loan on the portfolio. So I actually got to see what the deal was like from that point of view before. So I knew it was a bankable deal. At the same time, I knew it wasn't exactly an easy situation. I definitely had to put some time and effort into getting it where it is now. But yeah, I knew it had the potential back then.
Yeah. And what first attracted you to this deal? Was it the location? Was it that value add you were talking about?
Yeah, all the above. The location was good. Parking in our area is difficult. It had some good base tenants that I felt like could make the deal bankable. And I saw that it had some potential. Some space wasn't very well utilized, and I just really like the location too. It's walkable for this town. That certainly helps.
Yeah. And you mentioned there was an operational component as well. Do you want to talk about how you streamlined operations to reduce expenses and boost the NOI?
Well, one of the things, different parts of the building were built at different times, but it had really old lights. And so it was a value add to the tenants. And I was able to just explain to them, hey, let's do a light improvement, change over to LED from the old fluorescents. And they kind of see a savings. Some of the tenants also were able to see, gosh, I can understand why Mark wants to do a expense reimbursement, sort of triple that style lease now. So changing some of that over, that
Yeah.
all gave credibility to that, as well as then showed it in the bottom line, which then helps the NOI, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And just in case some viewers are watching and they don't understand a triple net lease, do you want to just explain what triple net means?
Yeah, and my leases aren't true triple nets, but really what we're talking about is expense reimbursement. The tenant takes on the exposure of the operating costs. So we're talking about property taxes, we're talking about insurance, we're talking about utilities, and then some triple net leases, the tenant actually pays for things like the landscaping, snow removal, other types of repairs. So really, it all depends on that. But a gross lease, that's the converse. The landlord has 100% obligation on all those items, and so it's a fine line to do that. In a small town, especially, you need to show the tenants that you have everybody's best interest in mind. So I try to do things like make sure the property taxes don't get out of control, make sure the expenses don't get out of control. And you will see that the tenants value that. They see that you're working on their behalf, and then you have good long-term stable tenant relationships. So I think that's the big lesson learned I learned through all of that.
Yeah. And especially on the commercial side, you're looking for those long-term leases.
Right.
So what are some strategies that you use when you're vetting a potential tenant, and how do you ensure that you're getting those lease terms that are good for yourself?
Yeah, and that is hard. It's a big deal. That's one of the reasons why I would say co-working businesses are so popular right now, because it's a big deal for a small business to say, gosh, you want me to sign a 3-year lease? Well, ideally, I want you to sign a 5-year lease because that's better for me. But I think that I always try to say, gosh, if I'm the business owner and I try to sit down with them, I'll even look at their financials with them and say, gosh, is this a good sustainable amount of rent for you to be paying? And I look at that between 6% of their gross revenue on the low side, but I'd really, if I see it over 10, I have to ask them, oh my gosh, can you afford this? Is this a good idea for you? What's your plan of growing your business to make this work for you? I want to see the tenant be successful. I think there's plenty of opportunity in this world, and we can all be successful, but sometimes it does take a little more time and effort to have the conversation.
Yeah, and certainly that's going back to your banking background. What other things do you think banking's done for you with your experience that's allowed you to be a successful real estate investor?
Well, I'm very boring at cocktail parties, but beyond that, no. That's an interesting question. Banking has changed so much, and I think that a healthy amount of skepticism is good for everybody. In real estate, those that are gonna fail in the long run or may get hurt if we do have a softening are going to be those that get over their skis. They're not liquid. Their properties aren't liquid, or they're they just don't have solid economics underneath their just relationships, I would say. And banking taught me that, and it teaches me that still every day whenever I work with hard money lenders that are struggling because they're trying to keep their capital working. At the same time, they're seeing the market change also, and they're stretching. It used to be 5 years ago, it was very easy for somebody to find a cosmetic fix and flip opportunity, get a hard money loan on that. The flipper is going to be successful. The hard money lender is going to be successful. There's really not that much construction risk on it. Everybody wins. Well, now, there's not that many good deals. And in order to find a lot of meat on a deal, you got to have a lot of construction. Or, now I'm even seeing hard money lenders that want to really focus on ground up construction, new construction. And that's a big deal, yeah. I think, for somebody to take on that kind of a project. So, staying true to banking fundamentals, although it's boring and it can be very frustrating, I think we all got to remember that to a degree, so we can all be successful in the long run.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important message, especially, you mentioned people starting the ground up. At this stage in where we're at in the market cycle, that's, that can go a couple different ways, right?
Sure, yeah. Well, if you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, it could be great. There's a lot of demand for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also recently saw something that was, I think it was $40 million Bel Air in Los Angeles. That's a lot of construction risk. That's a lot of money you're talking about in different ends of the spectrum. And you just got to wonder, if we do have a softening, different markets could obviously soften at different times. Are those properties liquid or not? And I think the Raleigh, North Carolina single family house, that's not too big of a stretch, but some of this other stuff is pretty aggressive too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And since you've made the transit, as you've transitioned to that real estate from like your corporate banking, how has real
Mhm.
estate changed your life?
hmm Well, really, it's just given me more opportunities. It's allowed me to have a lifestyle that I have a little bit more control on, and I can design for myself. I still have a problem, like a lot of Americans, a lot of real estate people, where I push myself and make myself very busy. At the same time, though, I can call my own shots. If I want to go on my kid's field trip, I could usually make that happen. Yesterday afternoon, my son had the flu, so I just stayed for the morning with my son, and that was pretty nice that I didn't have to call a boss to ask if I can stay home with my son who has the flu.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
about the
so
time
it's pretty
freedom,
nice.
right? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have my fun too. So we've had a lot of powder days in Colorado this year. So, no feeling sorry for Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mark, if somebody's looking to learn some more about what you're doing or get in touch, where can they find you?
LinkedIn's a good way. I'll give you my contact information for the show notes, but I'm always happy to network with people. And I've had even people come and visit me at my vacation rentals here in Colorado, and we'll sit down and have a beer and we'll talk about real estate. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds great. I should
Yeah,
book a time and then I'll come out.
you should. Yeah, it's beautiful where I live.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Mark, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today to share your success with us.
Sure, happy to help.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.